Training is vegetables. I sell vegetables. We all know we should eat them, but people would rather buy vodka. So the client success person's job is to do that. And what I
Uh-huh.
did was made sure that the client success person was on like the second to last or last sales call so that it was a warmer handoff to the kickoff and the getting of the numbers and the engaging for the relationship. But I think we can do better.
This is Sales Hacker, a podcast for modern sales professionals who are looking to create more pipeline and close more deals. In each episode, we explore the latest sales tips, tactics, and strategies from leading industry pros that will teach you how to capture and connect data, streamline workflows, and do mission-critical work smarter so you can create opportunities more efficiently and close deals more predictably.
Welcome to the Sales Hacker Podcast. I'm your host, Colin. Been running the Sales Hacker team for about 5 years now. Our guest today is Lauren Bailey. And I think, Lauren, one of the reasons that you're maybe not on social media all the time is because you are super, super busy. You run the Sales Bar, Factor 8, and Girls Club. And you got 2 kids and a new puppy and who knows what else going on. So that's
It's
a
the
lot.
rule of twos. Yeah, it's 2 companies, 2 kids, 2 dogs, 2 cats. I've kept in it 1 husband. I mean, he is my son.
There you go.
Yes, I have a problem.
That's a lot. But I was actually just thinking before we got on, I was like, gosh, I looked you up. You got 19,000 and some followers on LinkedIn. And I thought to myself, you know what? You're not, and I mean this as the biggest compliment I have, is that you're kind of a best kept secret in my opinion. Not that you're a secret, but just that like 19,000, I was like, that's it. More people should be following Lauren because you're not the, hype machine, just spouting random opinions all the time. Like you always come with a nuanced view and your scope of knowledge is breathtaking. You can do the tactical, like here's how to call and leave a voicemail. You can do how to coach, how, it extends all the way up to the leadership level. You do change management, behavior management, sales training, enablement, all of it. So
thank you. I cannot, however, bake to save my life. I've never in my life made a successful batch of cookies, but you're right. I think that when I grew my business and started my business before social media, and I get a little tweaked off by the experts. Like, you know what I mean? Like you got a spare 30 minutes a day and a camera phone, and all of a sudden you're a thought leader. I think that's bullshit. So, it is sad. I take your compliment and that very much to heart, but at the same time, nobody wants to be a secret. I'm running businesses here, folks. Come and follow. Colin in the water sign.
And you got a newsletter there. So there's a lot of good stuff going on for the ladies in our audience, or if you're an ally, check out Girls Club. It really is. I know a couple people who went through the program and they never stopped talking about it to me. Like every time I talked to them, they were like, by the way,
here's the list. Yeah. It is that addictive. We are literally changing lives. So it's hard to count, Colin, but I think that we can confidently say we've been part of over 300 promotions.
Holy crap.
It's really cool. So we're on our 5th generation, right? So it's a cohort a year, which, by the way, I'm excited to announce here for the first time. We're launching an on-demand version this year.
Shit.
Yeah, I'm so excited about that. So here's the story. 3 weeks ago, I was at a conference in Chicago. An old buddy of mine comes out, Rob Beatty, and says, hey, I've got 2 women for you. When are you running your next cohort? I'm like, in 11 and a half months, because we literally just kicked off.
We just started.
Yeah. So that's a bummer, right? And then, what else was cool that happened was there was a panel. I wasn't in the room on leadership. And somebody in the audience stood up and started talking about Girls Club. People came and told me afterwards. It was like 15 minutes long. So people are passionate about it, and we're changing the future of work. And that makes me immensely proud.
You should be. It's really, it is amazing. And when you say, that's why it stands out to me, because when you say you've been a part of 300 and some promotions, because it's, up to date, cohort based, you're really part of it. This is not people at arm's length. This is like people you've
it's so
with that conversation.
Colin, like 50 to 100 women graduate as proteges in 6 months every year. And the last time we looked, which I think was generation 3, stat not 4, doesn't matter, 70% of the cohort who were rep level were promoted before it was even over. Like,
It's
it's
incredible.
fast. It's fast. And get this, in Chicago, I also ran into Julia Bourne, who was our protege of the year in first generation. And
Shout out, Julia.
hi, Julia. She's now a vice president and about to be promoted again. Like, she was a team lead, be clear. So she's had a promotion every single year and just keeps going higher and higher.
That's mind-blowing.
Isn't that neat? But also shout out to Market Source, who puts somebody in the program every single year because they've got a commitment to that. So those are the people who are the real heroes, because here's another kind of horrible stat. More than half of the women who come into the program, their companies don't pay for it. This is a leadership certification. We all know how hard it is to find good sales managers and how often we make mistakes in promoting the wrong people or hiring from the outside and they don't fit, right? It's a program we run at cost with a hugely proven track record to produce a high-performing sales manager, and the companies don't pay for it. It just breaks my heart. So we have great sponsors like Outreach who do pay for it and help women take advantage of the program.
Thank goodness. And, those companies that aren't paying for it, my guess is that the folks who go through the program when their company hasn't paid for it, they go find a better job.
You bet they do. You bet they do. And I've got sponsors who want to recruit these women. And for the first 3 years, I was like, oh no, Chinese wall. And now I'm like, you're not going to pay for your woman to come in the program. I'm going to make her fantastic, shine a big spotlight, and she's going to go get a better job. So we have, in fact, it's open right now. If you go to wearegirlsclub.com, you can see right there, we every year award top 25 companies where women want to work. Those are the companies we like to send them to. So you can, by the way, vote for a company or nominate your company there right now.
I remember voting for Outreach last year.
There you go. It's open. Yeah. Now's the time.
Lauren, it's been a while since we talked. And so like the theme of
You're
this
a daddy
show,
now. Does everybody
I'm a
know?
dad now. Yeah. I don't know. I'm a dad now. I have a 3-month-old at home. He keeps me busy. He's awesome. But, like I was preparing for this chat and I was like, oh, what do I want to ask Lauren about? Because, I think for the first time, I just have you for like an hour to ask you anything I want. And it struck me that we haven't really had this kind of in-depth chat since before the pandemic. And so a lot has changed. And there are actually things that I think I'm going to ask you that I've asked you before. And I just kind of want to see what your newest thinking is. And in fact, we have some questions from the community later on. You did an Ask Me Anything session with Sales Hacker. Remember this? This was in 2020, like right at the start of the pandemic. Wow. And there are a bunch of questions there. And so we're going to bring those back up. We'll shout out some of the members who asked later on, and we'll ask you for your latest take. And
this will be fascinating we'll be because I have no recollection of what I said, right? So you're going to have to be like, oh, new answer, or literally it was verbatim of what you said last time.
I'll let you know if you're doing a complete 180.
Perfect. This will be fun. It's like a quiz. I love a game show, Colin, and I have a buzzer of any kind.
So you can yell if you want. Make the dog bark.
I like it. That teach the puppy to bark, Colin.
One of the things that I just wanted to ask you about is because I'm kind of in my little bubble in tech, and I know that you work with a wide range of professionals and companies, and there's a lot of talk about an economic turndown, and I think that's felt in tech. I have friends and family that work in manufacturing and the energy sector, and they're like, what are you talking about when I say economic turndown? Yeah. Can you help me calibrate a little bit? Is this something that you're seeing and feeling in the sales world and other industries, or is this a tech thing right now? What do you think is going to happen?
Thanks for that. I do have, I would say about 20% of my customer and following is tech related, SaaS and technology, and then we go wide from there. So it is definitely worse in tech, especially in software. And thank God it's not felt everywhere as strongly, because I have, fellow training businesses shutting their doors and laying off their staff. And we're not in that situation. But be clear, it ain't easy out there, right? So I'm ready to use the R word instead of just economic downturn, right? I understand experts will tell you it's not officially a recession until probably it's after a recession because they're using lagging indicators. But the other sectors, things have slowed but not stopped. And so we're watching my average deal cycle is growing. The number of people involved is growing. If you're selling right now into any sector, one of the best tips I can give you is just know that the CFO will be signing off on the spend.
Hmm.
And so if you're not mapping out that step-by-step decision process, length, and people, then you're just inviting a bad surprise down the road.
So that's more than just in software sales. You're seeing that the CFO is signing off on deals pretty much everywhere right now?
Yes, absolutely. So we work with services, manufacturing, distribution, logistics, medical, pharmaceutical, gosh, franchisees or franchisors. So, and yeah, it's felt everywhere. They're still spending, they're still buying, but they are more cautious and they've slowed down.
Mm.
I think what's also interesting is that I think we should talk about post-pandemic employees, right? So I've been kind of screaming for years from my soapbox, hey, everybody, like the slowdown's coming. People are retiring, fewer and fewer people in the workforce, fewer and fewer people getting into sales. There's a crisis coming. And I think that COVID sped it up, right? It took something that was
Hmm.
going to
Yeah,
generally happen over the next 10 years and boom, nobody can find employees.
for sure.
And that's everywhere too.
It's
So
really impacted sales cultures. Like, so we did a couple road shows last year. We went to 5 cities last spring and 5 cities again last
yeah,
fall.
I
And people were, it was interesting. There was a split. Some people were desperate to get back together. These are like the millennials who kind of somewhat miss office culture and going out for a beer after work and just talking shop. And like no Gen Zers showed up to these things. They're free events with free food and drinks and some sales knowledge, but almost no, budding, new sellers showed up. And it made me realize that they don't really know what they're missing because a lot of them have never
right.
worked in an office like the last
That,
3 years.
you're so right. They don't know what they don't know. I went right to my mom brain there, Colin. My kids were in, let's see, like third and fourth grade ish, in fifth, right? 3, 4, 5, those areas during pandemic and staying at
Yeah.
home. And they didn't want to go back to school. They liked being online. And the way I noticed the difference, however, is that pre-pandemic, we were always having play dates and sleepovers and birthday parties. And post-pandemic, literally came out of my mouth, Cameron, I'll give you $20 if you'll invite a friend over. Like,
Oh my God.
that's just, I mean, I get that that is
Oh,
poor and
no.
wrong parenting on many levels, but like they just, it's different, right? They've been taught not to socialize because those formative years, it was missing for them. We'll see the same in math skills down the road, but that's
Oh,
a different
yeah.
story, right? So yeah, that's I love that you shared that with me. Thank you. They didn't know what they were missing. So when I'm out talking to folks through our client base, and we call everybody friends of Factor 8, we like to keep a tight community that helps each other. And most folks don't want to go back in the office. I would say the very vast majority are continuing to stay either remote or hybrid.
You're
So
talking sellers or leaders too?
sellers and leaders. Mhm.
All of them.
Sellers and leaders. I think that selling from home is much easier than managing from home. Right? When I talk to sales
Oh, for sure.
managers, it's tough on them. It
Yeah.
is, right? And I get
Yeah.
that. And it's really tough on the new hire as well.
Yes.
And it's really tough on the training and enablement teams who have tried to figure out how to onboard people and keep them ramping quickly. Because let's be honest, like there's a few things I need to say about sales onboarding because this is my sport. One, it's a race. Okay.
Hmm.
Companies need to hook sellers in the first 3 to 6 months or they lose sellers, especially because we bring people on at this BDR level now.
Yeah.
And when I say now, folks, if you haven't been selling for more than 10 years, it used to be that you were just a seller, right? You went and prospected, found the business, built your book, and then sort of, constantly were told to prospect, but didn't because you didn't have to. And now we start people in sales with the hardest part of the job, right? That prospecting, very tip of the sword, cold calling, even when we say it's warm calling experience that vast majority of sellers do not like. So how do you hook them? Well, we try fun, harder, remote. We try community, harder, remote. And we try success. And I think success is the most addictive. When I feel
Yeah.
good at it, right? When I feel good at something, I'll keep doing that. something. When I feel successful at work, I'll keep coming back to that work. And studies show that when I feel successful at work, especially as a man, that is like an 800 times proof point to having a happy life. Like 800 times higher than health, marriage, anything else is I feel happy at work. I'm a happy dude. And
I can attest to that.
yeah, right?
Yeah, a lot of my self-esteem is tied up in my work. It's funny for me, is tied up in other people's perception of my work performance.
Oh, now that was insightful. Your therapist
not
and I
super
had a
healthy.
really deep conversation about this. But it was, what really great, by the way, authenticity and self-knowledge. Good for you. But it's true, because it's not just how you feel you're doing. Success isn't an internal metric, is it?
No.
Success is your boss, your peers, your company awards, your raises, your attaboys, your ambition celebration screen, whatever it is. So that success at work is where we've got to hook them. And I think that training and development and managers and everyone are struggling to onboard people in a way that we make them successful quickly. And that's the biggest struggle. So people come in and then they opt out of sales. And they come in and they opt out. And the revolving door is spinning fast. And as a sales community and as sales leaders, we've got to stop that madness, right? Like, this is the bigger picture. This is the bigger why, right? As a sales leader, you may think your job's the number, but it's not, right? It's like, it's engaging and hooking your people. And when we do that, the number will follow. But I think that's
interesting.
That's what gets us up in the morning.
It sounds like you're arguing for, especially like onboarding a remote or hybrid, new seller, that the best way to make them stick around and be successful mid to long term is to help them get wins under their belt quickly.
Yes.
There was
100%.
I don't know if you've heard this from Sam Nelson, who used to be an SDR leader at Outreach, but he used to do kind of the opposite. He would make all new SDRs cold call and try to sell a pizza. Mm-hmm. The reasoning being that it only got easier from there, because that's really weird to do. Like, call a stranger and try to sell them a pizza. So it sounds like
it's actually not different, right? So let me get inside Sam's head, his funny, gorgeous head for a second.
Okay.
I did something similarly with a group of trainees early in my career who had a little phone fear. And show me somebody under 30 who doesn't have a little phone fear, right? Like, they don't answer their phones, they text. And so I wish I could say I'm way too old to even pretend. Anyway, so to get over some phone fear, you call and you do something hard.
Yeah.
And that's like, they just have to do it. And it's so much easier when you can get out of your head of, what if they ask about the product and I don't know this and I don't know, and this is my job and it's tied to you just leave all that bullshit aside.
Because you know everything about pizza.
And
everybody knows it.
Who cares? It's a throwaway event.
Yeah.
And so it's something you can steal if you're working with brand new people who haven't sold before or they have cold reluctance. So I had them calling veterinary offices to try to board my cat because I had to move to Manila. They didn't give a damn. They just called. And so it was really a cool thing. And then afterwards, you're like, now, what would you say? Like, how much easier? You just had 2 weeks of product training. Let's sell this stuff. So I think that's different. It's getting a win and making it a game. So he was doing it with some fun, and he was building confidence in the motion of doing something over the phone, and then having that, oh gosh, no big deal. I didn't die. So we used to give away gift cards. I love doing this. When you're cold calling, everybody says you're supposed to get past the gatekeeper, and they couldn't be more wrong. If you get a live body on the phone, A, go celebrate. B, get every piece of information possible from that live body. Are you with me?
Yep.
I can capture more contacts. I can actually sales qualify this account. It's a gold mine if you do it right. But people are a little nervous, right? This woman sounds like a senior executive assistant, and she's very busy, and I don't want to ask her 3 questions, and I can tell she's getting a little annoyed with me. And so we stop. It's sort of a social contract to stop, because we fear being rejected, even when it's with a nameless, faceless somebody we will literally never talk to again. So we would give out gift cards for people who got yelled at.
There you
None.
go.
That's not the job, but I
It's
want
not
you
the
to find
goal.
you want to find your edge, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
Consolation prize. And
you found your edge. You got 8 questions answered, and now you know what it feels like and how far you can go. Ask 3 each time and keep her happy. It's a win. It's a cakewalk.
you're really making me appreciate the time that I spent cold calling, and mine was different. I wasn't really selling B2B. I was selling B2C.
Yeah. What's
It
harder?
was very telemarketing, and I got yelled at a lot. And at the time, and even really up till like 5 minutes ago, I looked at that as something I just kind of had to get through to get to the next stage of my career.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look back, I'm actually realizing that I can credit that time. It was about a year of just solid like no's, doors slammed in faces. I did door-to-door sales, field sales, and cold calling.
What did that give you?
It made me feel, I used to be really shy, and I'm still an introvert, but I used to have a
podcast now.
I know. I used to have trouble like talking to people and thinking on my feet in conversation. And I think it was just like, the fear. And so for me, having to go through that has been invaluable, not just for helping me get out of that role and into something better, but actually like building sales acumen. I'm more open to have conversations with leadership that expose me to, higher levels of knowledge about how to run a business.
Yes.
And all kinds of things.
If we're open to it, I think here's the top things out of cold calling, right? One's the resilience, right? That fear of rejection stops us from doing almost anything worthwhile in our lives. Read a little Brene Brown, folks. Like, get in the arena and just freaking go for something. And
She's great.
Is learning that. Yeah.
Shout out, Brene, if you're listening, and we know that you are.
Oh, I hope you listen to Colin. You should, Brene. You're amazing. Nothing I want to tell Brene Brown what to do. Okay, back on track. The second thing that cold calling does for us, if we let it, is a business MBA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You may be selling the same thing or the suite of same things, but every single business that you're calling to works differently and is run by different people and different personality. Like, you can learn. So I do all the time, just interacting with my customers. I know so much more about business than somebody who's only grown up in one business, because I get to see 20 at any one given time. And then I think that the third thing it does for us, there's the education piece and there's the resilience piece, but I think it also helps us really learn how to connect to people, because that's the sport, right? If we can get over the rejection side, it's not just, can I get you to book a meeting or learn more? Can I get you to connect to me? That's the sport.
Yep.
And when we look at it that way, we build the resiliency. We build that learning mindset when it's about improvement. And I think, if you don't mind, I'm going to offer a tip to sales leaders in building that.
Yeah.
You got to embrace the rejection. When we stick our head in the sand about, I'm not going to get hung up on or yelled at or rejected, we pretend it doesn't happen. How do you think the 22-year-old feels who's going through that?
I mean, it's basically like professional gaslighting, kind of, right?
Oh my God, you're right. You're so right. It's like hiring a quarterback and not mentioning safeties or defense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that to kids. And so they feel, I'm going right back to Brene here. They feel shame. They feel it's personal. And so they have to armor up to go to work, don't they? Have you ever had a job where you had to armor up before you went?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
It's soul sucking, right?
I didn't last. I did not last in that job.
No, I lasted 1.5 years at my armor up job.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money involved.
That'll do it. Yeah, some golden handcuffs.
But I'm literally, it was 1.5 years to the day, because if I stayed one more day towards the big bonus, right? Like, I just had to do it for my own mental health. So armoring up to go to work sucks. And it's a guarantee your staff will never stay in sales and they won't come back to sales. So we have to teach young people to love sales. We have to show them that rejection is part of it. And we have to show and help them deal with that. We have to engage them in not just our companies and our products, but with each other and with this sport of selling. Because I got to say, selling is an amazing profession and career. And we're rejecting people too early. or they're rejecting them.
I think you're 100% right. And we were talking about, so that happens in onboarding, right? People decide pretty quickly, do I love this or do I absolutely hate it? Do I have to put on my armor for this? And I know that, now a lot of people aren't onboarding in an atmosphere where they can constantly hear their friends and their peers and even the people they don't like on the team making good, bad,
yeah,
ugly
exactly.
calls.
Yeah.
Like
I
they
mean, we
can't
learned a
hear it
lot
all
from
happening.
bad calls too. You're right.
Yeah. And so like people have Kaya and like call recording stuff and call coaching stuff. But, how do you, so I'm a sales manager, right? I'm onboarding a whole bunch of new reps. Do I just send them like, hey, here are some great calls to listen to? How do I do that well so I know it actually makes an impact?
Yeah. Well, listen, learning is not an individual sport. It's a group sport. So there's telling and there's training and there's coaching. And I think the vast majority of us sales managers, I know I did, confuse them, which is why you constantly hear new managers saying, I keep telling my team to do X, Y, and Z, and they don't do it. Well, because it wasn't a telling game. This was a training game or a coaching game. So when you want people to learn from recorded calls, then you have to help them internalize. A passive listen does not learning make, right? A passive listen is going to give you some exposure. It's the telling. So here's how you translate that into actual learning. But here's my number one way to do it. I call it the pause game. This is the number one hack I have for shortening ramp time. And I literally made a career in corporate in shortening ramp time. So listen up. You grab anybody's call, right out of outreach recording. You hit play and you let it go for no longer than 10 seconds. You pause and then you ask the person or small group that you're training, all right, what's the customer thinking right now? And this is important because we're in our heads in sales, right? We're so worried about what we're going to say. And the great sellers are connecting with their customers. So when we can teach them to get into the customer mindset, everything changes. So we have that discussion, right? It could be multiple different ways. Then you say, okay, let's assume it's what Colin said. You're exactly right. The customer's thinking, I want to get the hell off the phone. If this were you, what would you do next? And this is the magic, okay? So that's decision making. The way adults learn is in file folders. I promise not to go too far into training geek for you here, Colin, but we learn in file folders, right? So like, oh, when you tell me there's Kaya, I have to say, oh, that's a CI tool, right? Like this company and this company and this company. It went into that folder in my head. Now, ramp time from hire to quota isn't because they don't know what to do. It's they don't know when to do it. So when we say, what would you do next? They're like, well, I don't know. Let me scan. I've got a folder of rapport building. I've got a folder of product questions. I have a folder of negotiation. I have a folder of features and benefits. I've got a value prop. I've got questions. Which one do I pull here? Right? And they're like, oh, this is where I start my discovery questions. Let me pull it out. And then they listen to the rep who either does or doesn't. And because they're tuned into the customer, they hear the effect of that decision. Right? So, whoops, this rep pulled out, let me pitch all over you. And I heard the customer disengage. That's how someone learns to not do that. Okay. Then you close up the call recording. You say, great, now we're going to role play it. You put them in groups or one-on-one, right? You play the rep. They also take a turn playing the customer. Huge learning in doing that. So we call it triad at Factor 8. Anytime we learn something, you don't really learn it now until you do it. So there's a rep, there's a customer, there's a coach. There's a form that helps, tells them exactly what to listen for, questions to ask to dig it out, and then you practice it 3 times so everybody plays something in the same scenario. And man, now they've learned something. By the way, just to complete the triad, the telling was the call listening, right? The learning was the pause game and the role play. After comes the coaching, okay? All too often we're trying to train and tell during coaching, which is why our coaching sessions sound like one-way monologues. But now you can coach it, right? Next time you hear it, like, hey, which shoulder did you pull out there? Hey, what's the customer thinking? What made you choose to go that direction instead of something else? And that's the light tapping to get people back in the guardrails that should be coaching, right? That's when it becomes mine. I'm executing, you're giving me feedback, I'm getting props, 5-to-1, positive and negative, and right, I'm making my own decisions now, and you're helping me do that instead of giving me a goddamn script to read like I'm a third grader. Not that I have anything against scripts, different soapbox. So sorry, that was really long. I just took off on a huge tangent there. Sorry.
No, it's super valuable. I mean, it brought to mind, this is again why you're one of my favorite people in the sales training world. It's because you are focused on, like you said, not what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Like, you're focused on your customer, who are the sales managers and the sellers. And there are a lot of folks who are, purported experts who really just talk about, hey, here's how sales should work.
I
And they
know.
don't concentrate on driving the behavior change.
It's all about behavior change. Yes.
It's about behavior change.
Anybody can talk with their camera phone about,
Yep.
I mean, it's just such bullshit. And by the way, that's what sells books, right? Like
Yep.
everybody talks about the sales conversation. And every few years, there's another big thing, right? Ask questions, be valuable, challenge them, insult them, whatever it is. And but we know in digital sales that conversation moment is about 1/10 of my journey and process as a seller. Getting to that conversation is what's pushing me out of sales. And I think that's missing from a lot of sales competencies and curriculum and onboarding.
So when you run trainings for sales teams, are you just training the reps?
Oh God, no.
Or do you require that?
We require it. Yeah. I'm sorry. Would you like to ask a whole question before I jump all over you?
You beat me to it. You know exactly what I was going to ask, which is, because here's where I was going with this, is like, you're a fantastic sales trainer. I know everybody on the factory team is fantastic. You could come in and run fantastic sessions for my teams. Then you leave at some point after our engagement. How do I make sure the behavior sticks as a manager?
It's a number one question anybody who ever buys training should ask. Thank you for asking it. So it's sort of the white whale that we've been chasing, right? Factor 8 has been around for 15 years. We were training digital sales before it was cool. And I've chased this whale. Let me tell you the latest iteration of solution that we have. One, managers get training before the reps get training. We have a whole program called Coach to Coach that every sales manager gets for free if we're training your reps, because it doesn't work otherwise. Yeah.
And you do that first?
We do it first. So we start with the managers and we teach them about how to develop their team, about what to say and what not to say, and what to do and what not to do, and why their role is so important. And then we also bring them into the bar, which is our platform where we have all of the reinforcement tools and coaching guides and stuff to make their lives easier. Because if they can take 30 seconds to pull something out of the bar to run a huddle or a team meeting or a call coaching, they're going to do it more often, right? So we start with the manager training, then we require them to be part of the rep training. So they're the ones that roll out the rep pre-training in the bar.
Oh, cool.
Then they come to the live session with my team, or we give them the tools for their enablement team to run it. We'll even let sales managers run it after we give them a little train the trainer. And then they work for the rest of the period, which is usually about a month, using all those tools in there. We've even given them a guide. On Wednesday, pull this report. On Thursday, send out this, right? On Friday, run a call coaching. Use this guide. So the managers use all the tools throughout the month. My team checks back in with, not the reps, the managers. So we, a week and a half later, bring the managers back. Did you roll the contest? How's it going on the activity? Who's got recorded calls? And then we grade and calibrate our grade on the calls. So it's not just learn it and use it if you want to. It's you're literally bringing the recordings back to show it's being applied and that you're coaching it correctly. And that's how you get sustained behavior change. And then, frankly, some companies, we've had year-long contracts for 5 years in a row. Others, we teach them, right? They go, we call it the client growth model when it's my trainers, but then all the tools are there and given to them so that their people can take over. And that, we just become part of their DNA, which makes me happy, right? I don't want to have a team of 200 trainers, right? We like being a part of success, but not for the heavy labor, if you will.
That's really cool. The way you just described, you're involving your clients, managers in the process from the very start. Like you coach them first, and then they're the ones rolling out the pre-training. Reminded me of a thing I used to work at a marketing agency. I don't know if you know this. I was in account management at a marketing agency for about 6 years. And towards the end of my tenure there, say the last 2 years or so, we started having real trouble onboarding customers. And the reason was we had more competition in the market, and our customers were also getting more sophisticated. We were specialized in content marketing, and people were starting to understand what that was. So they had like more nuanced expectations. And so by the time they got through this whole sales process and had to start onboarding with an account manager, they were annoyed at every question because they had already explained it all. And so what we did was, without making it a part of the job performance for account managers, in terms of like they didn't have to make sales, we required them to be a part of the sales process. We reduced their account load. We sucked up a bunch of their time being on sales calls when we knew that the prospect was qualified. And onboarding started from the first demo, and discovery started, and strategy work started from the first demo. And like I said, it sucked up a bunch of their time, but they had less churn.
I like that.
I don't know if I had a real point there. I guess I wonder to myself sometimes why there have to be these hard handoffs in like a sales process, like SDR to AE, AE to CS, especially in software. There's like this very Excel sheet way of, no, it's my account now. It wasn't my account 5 minutes ago, but now I care about it.
And I'm going to hoard it like a boss, right? Nobody's going to touch it. I like that. And Colin, what you're making me think of is that I can do that better. So we recently hired somebody in client success. And the reason we did that is that we don't sell training as an event anymore because we think that's broken, right? We'll do an event, but then we're also going to work with you afterwards, before and afterwards, right? To keep the skills alive and help make learning something you do, not something you did. And so we're now in the renewals business, aren't we? So this client success person is there to make sure that we're keeping our executives engaged. Because I will tell you, 9 out of 10 sales leaders, crazy busy, right? They're going to buy it and forget it. And we can't get them to re-engage with us saying, hey, look, we moved this number. And hey, look, we moved that number. And Bobby is like number 1 now. And isn't this exciting? Because it's not on fire. So they don't care. Let's be honest. Training is vegetables. I sell vegetables. We all know we should eat them. But people would rather buy vodka. So the client success person's job is to do that. And what I did was made sure that the client success person was on like the second to last or last sales call, so that it was a warmer handoff to the kickoff and the getting of the numbers and the engaging for the relationship. But I think we can do better. Right?
I mean, there's a balance for sure, because it does suck up time. You just
have
to
suck
figure
up time.
out,
I don't
what's
think
the time investment that prevents churn.
Did your close rate go up?
Absolutely.
See, because it's not just the churn once they're closed. It's that, company A literally has my client success guy who will be my relationship forevermore on these calls with me. Right now, I'm important. I'm going to choose.
The other thing we found, it was close rate went up, churn went down, account manager retention went up. We retained our teams better because they weren't handed like a pile of shit after the salesperson finished anymore. They like had a rapport. But also we found we were able to close bigger deals because often in the period of that, the account manager would raise their hand and say basically like, hey, you're not buying enough. But I have no skin in the game here. You need to buy more stuff. In fact, it would benefit me if I waited to tell you this, but like our relationship will be sour.
Doing it wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am literally taking this note right now.
It worked for us. And like, I think we got lucky. I think it was a pretty iterative process for us to find the right balance of involvement because, the time cost, but.
And listen, that happened with us too. It was iterative. I used to train the reps and then have a 15-minute with the manager saying, hey, by the way, train them this, keep it alive. And I learned that, just because the manager went through the training doesn't mean the manager can coach it.
Right.
So our most famous class is the Swift intro. It's a way of starting a cold to warm call that actually engages somebody and keeps them talking to you. And it's like Colt 45, baby. It works every time. And so that is an old person joke. Just anyway, so we go to the class. Everybody's listening to it. Everybody's taking it. Everybody's a part of it. Everyone's heard it afterwards. And then we go and say, write yours. And without the coaching in the class, 50% of the folks will write it incorrectly. It's just, it takes a minute to move the mind and to really apply it. And what I saw that afterwards is almost all of my sales managers would coach it incorrectly because it's different. We're teaching them to do it differently. And what they've always done is here. And what we're telling them to try is here. So they don't automatically download it and become a great coach of it. It's hard to do that. And so that you've got to involve the managers even more. And it's, like I said, it's iterative because the next question is, well, how much time does that take? So one of the first things we do is put everybody through a time management class. So we've got a sales and a manager level of Own Your Day, which is literally written for only the sales profession of, how to get more productivity out of your day and make time for the stuff that, frankly, is the reason you got into management anyway, right? All that good coaching.
So awesome how holistic that all is.
That's the idea, right? Is let's help people feel successful at work. Let's help people love coming to the job. Because I'll tell you, my first 6 months in sales management, I don't know which would fill up more bottles, the wine I drank or the tears I shed. It was not an easy time.
Yeah.
Probably 1-to-1 ratio.
So Lauren, towards the end of our conversations for this podcast, we do something we call maybe good advice. And that's just because, I don't make promises on behalf of our guests. So we've got some questions from members of the community that we'll put to you, and you can just tell us, good advice, bad advice, give us whatever you want. The fun thing this time is that you've been asked these questions before.
Oh, this is going to be great. And you'll be like, same advice, different advice.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I've got my buzzer.
So these questions are all from before the pandemic. So we've got our super producer, Marcella, here with the questions. Do you have them, Marcella?
I'm ready. Ready to
Here we
put
go.
Lauren in the hot seat. Okay. The first one is from Graham Gilovich. And they're asking, which outbound channels are you seeing teams use with the most success right now? And in what mix?
All channels is the answer. And the mix is, I don't have an answer on the mix, but I do have an answer on the how. So my maybe good advice is use your social and your email for brand awareness. Use your voicemail for personal branding and awareness, and never try to sell anything in those first 3 channels. Pick up the damn phone and get them voice to voice to do so.
You know what? That's pretty damn close to the last answer you gave. And honestly, I'm surprised on that one because the last answer you gave, like I said, was at the start of pandemic. And everybody, but now I think of it, it shouldn't be surprising. Everybody thought sales channels would change in the pandemic, and I don't know that they actually did all that much.
Right. I think what changed is people's numbers changed to their cell phone numbers.
Yeah, exactly. So the channel stayed the same, but it was just the contact data was wrong.
There just isn't another way unless you're going to fly and show up at their door, which is a little creepy, frankly. And I the other thing that's changed is it used to take about 7 calls to realistically say you were going to reach somebody, and that number's about doubled.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But it doesn't mean you can stop trying. That's just
means you got to try more, actually.
Persistence was a winner before, and it is still today. I think the vast majority of people don't try more than 2 calls.
Oof. Yeah.
I know.
Well, just go for 14 average, and then tell yourself you're trying hard enough.
That's what you're doing. And then by the way, while you do it, you have to pretend to not be pissy. Right? Yeah. I mean, when Colin finally picks up, you can't be like, you giant dick. You've been ignoring me for 3 straight months. Yeah.
I love that you say pretend not to be pissy.
Yeah. Because we all are, right? It's the game that we're playing. But listen, I do both. I make the calls and I receive the calls. Yeah. And if you try only once, you didn't want me bad enough.
Then you didn't.
That's kind of how I feel too, as a prospect. Sorry, Marcella.
Yeah.
That's exactly. I was going to say, if somebody called and had that had that tone of voice and said that to me, I'd be like, yeah, I know. I am totally a dick. I'm sorry. But I'm here now. Because that
This
would
is
be
why
so
you have
truthful, so authentic.
so true. But you see, that is why voicemail works, because
Yeah.
guilt is real. Okay.
Right?
Guilt is real. When you finally answer, you feel like a dick. And you're gonna give Colin an extra 5 minutes on the phone.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, this is the 20th time. Oh, yeah, we probably should talk. You really think I have something here that you can help me with. So, no, I hear you. I've got
Thanks for that question, Graham. It's a good one.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Graham.
The next one is from Annika Eric. How do you know when sales management is right for you?
Do you know, I've changed my answer on this one. I know I have. Oh, maybe not. So when the favorite part of your job is helping other people, you might be a great sales manager. When the favorite part of your job is getting the big W and feeling like a superstar, you probably aren't going to enjoy sales management as much as sales. But my number one answer is from Anna Baird, former CRO at Outreach. She was doing a guest spot for us with Girls Club, who are groups of women in sales trying to get into leadership. And we asked her that question, how do you know? And she said, if you're even thinking about sales management, volunteer to be a mentor and spend 6 months being a mentor. And if you find that experience to be kind of annoying because you're having to remind them and you don't hate taking the time away from this or that, then your sign is that's probably like just stay in sales and be grateful for the cash. But if you love it and you can't wait to do it more, head on up into sales management.
Word for word, the advice you gave last time. And I think that speaks to how good advice it is. And by the way, I looked up Annika Ehrig, and it looks like she decided that she wanted to keep selling.
Atta girl.
So yeah, props to her for figuring herself out, what motivated her and fulfilled her more and sticking with it.
I had a sales
Cheers,
manager.
Annika, for that question.
Yeah, I think this guy's actually a VP of sales, and I known him for years, and I saw him at the AAISP event recently, and he came up and said, hey, OB, I sent somebody to Girls Club who I didn't think should be a manager so that she could learn about it and be around other people who wanted to do it and then hopefully come to the conclusion it wasn't right for her. And it worked, and she failed out of it. And I just wanted to apologize for using your program for evil instead of good. And I was like, oh my God, Joe, that's exactly what it's for.
Yeah.
100% great answer. Give people a safe place to learn it, because the alternative is we do it, we get promoted, we freaking hate it. And then we leave with our tail between our legs because we feel like a failure. This whole discussion of trying to feel successful at work. So let people try it on through mentoring, shadowing, programs, Girls Club, stretch assignments, etc. Because you don't want to lose your top rep because they hated it.
Yeah. I think we've got time. Do you have time for one more? One more quick one, Lauren?
I do. Yes, if you do.
Cool.
Yeah, we got
Rob
one
Level.
from Devin at Level Joe. They're asking, in sales training, how do you tell which activities are most impactful? How do you measure the impact of sales training at all?
Two totally different questions and long answers. I don't remember ever answering this. How can you tell the activity is most impactful? Because you get the highest application of the skill. So it's not because people have the most fun, although funny has to be part of learning. Edutainment is real. But I can tell it's impactful because the ahas are happening. And I can tell the ahas are happening because they're either writing down the right thing, or they're saying it the right way, or they're coming to the right conclusions. So the most people with the rightest answers. The second part is, how do you measure the impact of training? And it is 100% the answer is in the numbers, baby. So in sales training, this isn't about like communications. It's not, of course it is, but it's what I'm saying is it's not this esoteric theoretical thing. When we go in to do BDR training, we double the conversions. That's how we measure the success, right? So it doesn't have to be hard and tricky. Just get your baselines and know.
Love how simple and straightforward that answer was. Oh, that's
Same
awesome.
or different? Same or different?
You know what? That one I actually don't remember. We'll have to, you know what we'll do in the show notes? We will link to Lauren Bailey's Ask Me Anything that she did. So you can go back and read. There are a ton of other, by the way, amazing questions that folks asked, and you gave some great answers. So if you liked this conversation, there's a whole lot more there. There are some amazing articles you've written with us. There are other awesome webinars you've done with us. We'll link all that stuff in the show notes for
Thank you.
folks.
I've
so they
I've
can check
always
you out.
loved, I've been a fan of Sales Hacker and outreach from the beginning. And I value the wonderful people that come out of your organizations. They're good people and good friendships and thought leadership and all the good things. Yeah.
I've been
Every
here.
single person I'm thinking of right now makes me smile.
Same here. I've been here 4.5 years and I still feel like I kind of snuck through the interview process somehow and like so weighed on this boat. It's a really fun team to be a part of.
Colin, you are a good and interesting and talented person. You belong.
Thanks, Lauren. Thank you. I will never believe that, but thank you.
Right? Don't we all have struggled with that? It's something we talk a lot about in Girls Club. That's about confidence. You've got a little imposter syndrome, and everybody.
Little.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
all right.
I'm a
Come
walking
on.
example.
You're coming to Girls Club. You'll be our first dude protege. I
actually would like that.
I have been waiting for somebody to be brave enough to be like, I'm a dude. Can I join Girls Club? Because the answer's yes.
Oh,
yeah. But
it's
going to take some. We have lots of male mentors and advocates and sponsors, but no proteges yet.
As long as I'm not going to make anybody uncomfortable or, be in a place I'm not supposed to be, I am very, very in. That would be great.
You will love this community. You will be welcomed with open arms. This is going to be fun. Tune back here later for Colin's Adventure 2024 Girls Club.
That's going to be great. Thank you so much for stopping by and doing this, Lauren. We should do it again because I had a bunch of questions I didn't get to. So
I think I talk too much.
No, not at all. This was amazing. Are you kidding? We really appreciate it. All kinds of goodies in the show notes. There are all kinds of cool Sales Hacker events coming up. Folks, if you're wondering how people submit questions to our guests, they just go to saleshacker.com and they ask cool questions and then I grab them and ask our guests. So if you want me to ask a sales genius cool question, then drop it in the forum there. I found out today that we're going to have Daniel Pink on later.
Awesome.
So, maybe I can ask Daniel Pink one of your questions. We've got interviews coming up with Latin Econant at 6 Cents, all kinds of other amazing sales marketing leaders. So go ask your questions. That's my long way of saying join the community. All right. Thanks, folks. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
That's our episode for this week. Please, please, please make sure you leave us a 6-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to this. And if they only let you leave 5 stars, that's okay too, I guess. Check out the show notes for any resources or members we mentioned. We'll make sure to include them there. Also, check out the conversations that our 55,000 members are having with one another in the forum on saleshacker.com. They are always asking really smart questions, giving amazing advice, and sharing their opinions with one another. And we did the research on it. It works. They're 40% more likely to hit quota than non-members. So if you're not there, you're missing out. We're on LinkedIn too, so give us a follow there. And lastly, if you have a question you'd like an expert to answer, email us at podcast@saleshacker.com.
Thanks for checking out Sales Hacker. If you enjoyed what you learned, subscribe to the show wherever you get your favorite podcasts, or visit saleshacker.com to get access to all of the latest episodes.